This latest wave of layoffs in the US is no small thing. This time, it's targeting high-income earners. For instance, Amazon laid off 14,000 people, and UPS is set to lay off 48,000, and their full-time drivers can earn over $100,000 a year. A viewer who just barely dodged this round of cuts told me, "I survived this time, but 2026 is uncertain. If I get cut in the next round, I can't even bear to think about my mortgage and insurance." So if this layoff wave really does continue into 2026, how will the housing market fracture? Who will be the first to buckle? What are the new risks for homeowners and investors? You need to prepare now. Sooner is better than later. Thank you for liking the video. It's my biggest motivation to keep sharing. First, let's go over the official labor market data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Here are the risk ratings for this layoff wave. See where your own field fits in. The highest risk sectors for layoffs include internet and software development, think front-end, e-commerce, and cloud operations. Related to e-commerce are logistics and warehousing, including operations, dispatch, and customer service support. Next, at medium risk, are sectors like auto manufacturing and education. I've seen education institutions announcing 50% layoffs, and I just saw that the Federal Reserve itself is cutting 30% of its staff, so I'll add finance back office to the medium risk list. The lowest risk areas, relatively speaking, are healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and energy infrastructure. For example, in our city-focused series, we've been visiting Rust Belt cities primarily to look at power plants for data center investments. Power plants are energy infrastructure. So, based on this employment situation, let's look at the stock market and the real estate market together. To understand the housing market right now, you must look at the other major market, the US stock market. You've seen the stock market recently, right? US stocks are hitting new all-time highs. At the beginning of the year, I made a video specifically for my younger viewers called How to Start Investing in the Stock Market with $1,000, explaining how to calculate dollar cost averaging. Why did I make that video back then? Because as I traveled for my industrial investment work, I could feel this layoff wave coming. It was either going to hit this year or next. So what were young people supposed to do? But look at the stock market this year. It's been full of confidence and making money. Now look at the US housing market. It can be summed up in one word: no confidence. 15% of all home purchase contracts are being canceled at the last minute. This brings us to our first question. Who will be the first to buckle? It's likely those who are already struggling with their homeownership costs, who then get hit by a major layoff and a volatile income. They can't even bear to think about the mortgage and insurance. They barely got on the bus, and now they might be forced to get right off. Banking institutions have released their forecasts for 2026 interest rates. Fannie Mae predicts rates will drop to around 5.9% by the end of 2026. The Mortgage Bankers Association forecasts 6%. Zillow's new forecast is also 6%. Only Bank of America predicts rates could approach 5%, but they state this would require unconventional means, such as a major personnel change at the Fed. The Fed is indeed considering the possibility of a rate cut. But remember, the Fed cuts the benchmark rate. Mortgage rates follow the 10-year Treasury yield. If the Treasury yield rises, mortgage rates rise, and vice versa. This is the primary factor. This creates a split in the market. First, let's look at existing homes. Many current homeowners are sitting on ultra-low legacy interest rates of 3% or 4%. No matter what the Treasury market does, it's highly unlikely we'll ever see 3% mortgage rates again. So these homeowners are in no rush to sell. If they don't sell, how can the inventory of existing homes possibly increase? Take Nassau County on Long Island, New York, for example. Inventory there is already low. Even with layoffs, the scarcity of available homes is so extreme that good properties still get snatched up. The layoffs don't have as big of an impact. Conversely, the new build market is concentrated in the suburbs. In my member-only video, I shared my on-site report from a builder in California. They aren't planning to open any new communities in the near future. They've stopped building. So where will the supply come from? This risk also applies to the suburbs of Texas and Atlanta. This answers our second question: how will the layoff wave, if it intensifies, fracture the housing market? You'll see a split. The existing home market will remain scarce. Even if some people are forced to sell due to layoffs, there will be new buyers ready to take their place. But the new build market is the opposite. The shock of the layoff wave could cause new homes in the suburbs to sit unsold for a very long time. The housing inventory, which was rising wildly, has suddenly slammed on the brakes. Existing homeowners won't sell, and new home builders won't build. This has flattened the supply, but this creates a new problem. Different price tiers face different risks. Let's look at your questions. A viewer asks, I'm a newbie with some recent investment profits. I'm looking at a house in California for $800,000 to $900,000. What should I watch out for if I buy next year? What's the biggest variable in the cost of ownership? My advice is to first figure out why you're buying. If it's just to roll over your investment gains, you're fine renting. But if it's a real need for your family, then it's a math problem. Your total housing cost should not exceed 30% of your monthly income. At most 35%. But with these layoffs, I'm even more conservative. I'd recommend 25 to 30%. Why? Let's run the numbers. For an $800,000 house, with 20% down at a 6% interest rate, your mortgage is about $3,800. Add property tax, let's say $800 a month. Add insurance, let's be conservative, $2,500 to $3,000 a year. Add an HOA of $200 a month. Your total monthly cost is already starting at $5,000, and that's before maintenance, landscaping, or replacing appliances. When I was in Riverside recently, my neighbors were selling their house. They told me their health insurance is set to jump in 2026. When you do the math, costs are rising everywhere. At the beginning of the year, I advised people to replace their old AC units. The ones who waited until summer regretted it and paid $10,000 more. So if your housing costs are eating up 40% of your income, life will be very stressful. The comment the middle class is one home purchase away from poverty might not be a joke. It's the real situation for many American families. And that's before a layoff. I truly don't recommend buying a house if your job is uncertain, unless you have at least 6 months of living expenses saved up in cash. But then, the new problem is, if you have that much cash, wouldn't you be better off putting it in the stock market? That's the middle class dilemma. Another viewer wants to sell an old house to invest in stocks, but is having trouble. Agents are telling them to renovate first. You need to understand why the house isn't selling. It's not necessarily that the agents aren't working hard. It might be that the house itself needs some work. We've done a whole series on renovating old homes. I'm reminded of a client in Boston who also wanted to sell an old house. We came up with a low-cost, high-impact renovation plan. Focus on the kitchen and bathrooms. These are the most high-impact areas. New countertops, new fixtures. Then focus on the large surfaces. What's a large surface? The first things you see when you walk in. The floors. If the floors are worn, replace them. A fresh coat of paint. These first impressions make a huge difference. But in the end, I have to pour some cold water on this. Even with renovations, don't expect a quick sale in this layoff environment. I would instead suggest you rethink why you're selling. What if that stock you've been eyeing doesn't perform as well as you think? Will you regret selling the house? You should return to the fundamental math of investing. If your house is currently rented and isn't a financial burden, maybe it's even generating some positive cash flow, then there's no need to rush to sell. You should build a stable, diversified investment system, real estate, bonds, stocks, and yes, even crypto, that isn't about getting rich quick, but about long-term, stable returns. We've previously discussed how real estate is becoming deeply tied to financial derivatives. In the future, a house might be tokenized and traded in pieces on a blockchain. The good news, this would lower the barrier to entry and increase liquidity. The bad news is that the risk will be much greater. The more complex the financial products, the more opaque they become, and the more vulnerable they are to manipulation just like with crypto and meme stocks. To reduce your risk, you must see these new forms of real estate for what they are. Look at the fundamentals. What is the rental cash flow? Can it be used as collateral? And most importantly, as AI continues to revolutionize every industry, we will likely face more and more layoff waves. You can no longer bet all your assets on the assumption of a perpetual bull market. You must start thinking beyond real estate. What other investment channels can provide stable cash flow, flexible financing, and true diversification? Whatever you do, don't get stuck with all your eggs in the real estate basket. This show is also for my real estate agent viewers. I know my analysis of the market might sound negative, but I'm not trying to hurt your business. The market is what it is. And if your business is struggling, maybe this is the perfect time to find a new path. The tech revolution won't happen overnight, but it is coming. I deeply understand the anxiety about layoffs. To be perfectly honest, my own companies are laying off staff. Not because I want to, but because our competitors are deploying AI systems to replace old processes and increase their efficiency. When Amazon lays off 10,000 people, their stock explodes the next day. It's a painful paradox. This layoff wave isn't just about housing. It's the prelude to the AI revolution, which will sweep through every industry. Our homes will also be affected, with new construction technologies and new forms of investment. I will continue to share these trends with you. I welcome you to share your own thoughts. How will this wave of high-income layoffs affect your local market? I look forward to hearing your insights. As that one viewer who just survived this round of cuts said, I'm barely holding on, but I made it. I made it. I made it. Thank you for your likes and subscriptions. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next exciting share.